Say goodbye to everything New York Giants. And it's time to say hello to the Empire State Sports Report. This is the new podcast, guys. Welcome. I am so excited to be announcing this. I also signed with Believe. You guys know them if you listen to Carl Banks and Bob Papa and the Sims Complete podcast, along with a bunch of other podcasts. I'm so excited to be a part of their network. And on top of that, I'm so excited to bring you the new podcast. So we'll go into the whole thing. I'll tell you what's going to be different, what's going to be the same, and all sorts of stuff like that. But first, please subscribe, because I know that we are all diehard Giants fans, and I know that we are all passionate. And if we are passionate about our football team, I know that we are passionate about other sports. And I know that if you're a Giants fan, you are either a Yankees or a Mets fan. So what that means for this podcast is that not only are we going to be talking about the New York Giants, we are also going to be talking about the New York Yankees and the New York Mets. And this is going to be your number one place where you will find everything that you could possibly want to know about those three teams. So I'm super excited. I hope you guys are excited about it too. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I just felt like there needed to be one consecutive place. And I also felt like we are in the depths of despair discussing this Giants team week in and week out. We need a little bit of excitement and a little bit of fun in our lives. So until we can get that from the Giants, we're going to talk about the Yankees and the Mets, because at least we have two New York baseball teams who know what they're doing for the most part and are actually good and fun to watch. So that's what we're going to be discussing from here on out. And what the podcast is going to look like is we're going to stick with our twice a week. Once is going to be all Giants and once is going to be Yankees and Mets. And then, depending on how the offseason goes with the Giants, if there's a lot of breaking news and with the draft and things like that, we might do two Giants podcasts a week and then one where we cover off the Yankees and the Mets. And then depending on how baseball season goes, we might be doing two Yankees and Mets podcasts. So stay tuned. Things are going to change depending on, this season, how the offseason goes and the regular season goes. But I'm excited to start talking some baseball around here. This is a great story about how I became a Yankees fan. So my grandmother on my dad's side, my dad's mom, was a huge Yankees fan her entire life. For her 80th birthday, all of her grandkids, myself included, we all went to Yankee Stadium. They put happy 80th birthday Dora on the Jumbotron, and it was a really cool experience. And she has passed her love of baseball and the Yankees on down to all of us. So my whole family is Yankees fans, obviously, including my dad. My dad was a big time pitcher in high school and college. He went to William Patterson, and he actually tried out for the Yankees, and he didn't get a call back from them, but he did get a call back from the Toronto Blue Jays. And at the time, my parents were married for a couple years. They had already bought a house and had my older brother, and we're only 2 years apart, so I was probably right down the line after that. And they decided to stay put. So I could have been a Blue Jays fan, I guess, but our love of the Yankees runs pretty deep. And I am certain that if my dad had gotten some sort of tryout or callback from the Giants or the Yankees, he would have said yes to that. And I would have been even more of a Yankees fan than I already am. So that's kind of the history of the Yankees. I went to opening day last year, which was great. And I'm excited for this season. And, I have never been one of those Yankees fans that hates Mets fans. I now hate Jets fans, which is I will not cover the Jets on this show unless we play them. It'll be a preview and a recap, and that's it. But unless something miraculously changes, the Jets we are not going to talk about them here. But it's funny because I feel like a lot of the Mets fans that I know are cool with the Yankees fans. It's the Jets fans who are not cool with Giants fans, and I don't get it. I was not a Jets hater until Aaron Rodgers came around and their fan base became insane. That's the only way I guess I can put it. So so fuck the Jets. Anyway, let's talk about the Giants, because there have been some changes in the last couple days. So it was announced yesterday, Wednesday, that the Giants went ahead and fired two defensive position coaches. Now, I know we were all hoping that Vrabel getting this job in New England, that he was going to sweep away Shane Bowen with him, and we were going to have the opportunity to bring in a new defensive coordinator, which is what I have been dying for. And it looks like it's not the case. So that's absolutely a bummer. But the feeling that I'm getting with the firings that they made, which was the defensive backs coach and passing coordinator, Jerome Henderson, who has been with the Giants since 2020, and the safeties coach, Michael Trier, who has also been here for a little bit, is that Shane Bowen said, if I'm staying, I'm making some changes to the staff, and I am going to bring in my type of people, the people that I want to work with. He probably feels like he's about to be booted off the ship, so he might as well, bring in new blood and take them down with him, I guess, if it doesn't work out there. So I did see a tweet about a name to watch, because I have to be honest, I haven't really heard a lot at all about who they're going to bring in. Now, I know this obviously happened within the last 24 hours, so curious to see who else they potentially bring in. But Art Stapleton tweeted out, a name I'm hearing to potentially fill one of the two position coaching openings in the defensive secondary is Marquand Manuel. He was a one-time DC for Dan Quinn's Falcons, and most recently the Jets defensive back and safeties coach for Robert Saleh. And he's going to interview with the New York Giants, according to Art Stapleton. Now, I would be on board with this. I like the fact that he's worked under Rob Saleh. Obviously, Rob Saleh is one of the guys that I really liked for the Giants defensive coordinator if they decided to open that can of worms. But the other thing that I like about it is that DJ Reed is a cornerback from the Jets who is going to be a free agent this offseason. And we all know that this Giants team so desperately needs help at the corner position. And I really, really want a veteran. I think it's extremely important that they bring in a good, talented veteran, but also someone who can be a leader, because I really think that the young core needs a lot of that. So he's a guy that if he ends up getting hired, Marquand Manuel, that I would keep your eyes peeled, that maybe there's an opportunity that the Giants can bring in DJ Reed, because that would be fantastic. Art also tweeted out that it says, sounds like the Giants will be filling both the cornerback and safety spots vacated by the departures of Jerome Henderson and Mike Trier, and assistant coach Mike Adams is still under contract, so he's expecting that he will return. So again, I will keep you guys posted over the next, week or so when all of these changes are made. I do feel a little bit like Henderson was the scapegoat, in the sense that they're keeping Shane Bowen, but the defense was not good, so they had to make some sort of change. What I will say is that I'm glad that it was not Andre Patterson, because Dexter Lawrence has spoken very highly about Andre Patterson and about how he has really helped shape his game. And he's one of the reasons that Dexter says is why he's been so good over the last couple of years. So I'm glad that Andre Patterson is staying. I don't expect him to go at this point. I do feel like these were the only two moves that we can expect from the Giants defense. I think if they were going to fire anyone else, they would have done it yesterday along with these two. So I think the only changes that we will see is new hirings for those two positions. Something else that I found very interesting, as we are on the talk of Shane Bowen over here, is that he is going to be the head coach of the West of the Shrine Bowl. And something else that was tweeted out by Schefter about this to keep in mind is that, well, he is coaching the West. Some of the assistant coaches on that staff are going to be Titans personnel, and they are going to have an up-close opportunity to work with Shedeur Sanders. So I'm very curious to see if we get any sort of true, I put quotes around it because you never know what's true this time of year, information about after the Shrine Bowl and how things went. So I will keep you guys posted again on that. I think it's going to be really interesting. The Shrine Bowl is not for a few more weeks. So the Senior Bowl is in 2 weeks, and then the Shrine Bowl, the Combine, and then free agency, and then the draft. So I know it's tough to be excited about the Giants, knowing that Shane Bowen and Joe Shane and Brian Dable are back. We're still waiting to hear what happens with Mike Kafka, but it unfortunately is what it is at this point. Speaking of Mike Kafka, He was selected along with the Browns special teams coordinator, Bubba Ventrone, to be the head coaches of the Senior Bowl. Now, I am going to be at the Senior Bowl in Alabama, which I'm very excited about. So they have a couple practices during the week beforehand, and then the Senior Bowl is on Saturday. So I'm hoping that I can get up close with Mike Kafka. By then, we will know if he's staying on board with the Giants, which in my opinion, I think he's going to. And I am hoping that I can get some scoop out of him about what's going to be the deal with play calling. Would he like to take it back? How he would do things differently, et cetera, et cetera. I have a media credential, so I will be able to get up close with the coaches and the players, I think. So wish me luck on that one, because I really would love to get some great interviews. So I'm excited about that. And then that's kind of where we're at with the Giants. Something else that I wanted to talk about today is the restricted free agents and the free agents that the Giants are going to have pretty much within the next week or two. The list is not super long, but as I was going through it earlier, I was looking at all of them and I was like, I don't think we would miss 99% of them, which is great, because it means that we don't have to spend a lot of our cap space this offseason to bring them back, and we can bring in new blood and better talent. But it's also just a reminder of how bad this roster is, that we have 12 free agents. And out of all of them, I think there's 3 that I would bring back. That is pathetic. It is truly pathetic. So let's run through the list and then I'll go through one by one. So 1, 2, okay, so there's 18 unrestricted free agents: Darius Slayton, Isaiah Simmons, Azeez Ojulari, Drew Lock, Greg Van Roten, Jamie Gillen, Casey Kreider, Chris Manhertz, Gunnar Olszewski, Amir Smith-Marset, Aaron Stinney, Chris Hubbard, Elijah Riley, Ty Summers, Armon Watts, Jason Pinnock, Greg Stroman, and Patrick Johnson. So starting with Darius Slayton. While I would love to bring Darius Slayton back because I think he's a real character guy and he is a good football player and he was the Giants' leading receiver for the bulk of his time with the Giants, I don't see him coming back on both sides. I think that he's going to want to try and get some better money elsewhere. And I also think that he wants to go to a team that's going to win. And I don't blame him one bit for that. Unless he goes to the Eagles, then he's on my shit list along with Saquon. So Darius, you can go anywhere you want. I will root for you, except for the Eagles and the Cowboys. But Darius has been such a good guy. He was a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee this year. And, he's always really done the right thing. He's always stood by Daniel Jones. Whether or not you like Daniel Jones, you have to appreciate that they've always been really good friends. And Darius has always stood up for him. So I really appreciate that about him. He's a stand-up guy. But I just think that I don't think there's a future for him here. And I think that goes both ways. So I wish him the best of luck. And I hope that he signs to a team that is going to win football games, because it's probably not going to be the Giants. Next up, Isaiah Simmons. As much as I really would like to sign Isaiah Simmons, I don't see it happening. For some reason, this coaching staff does not know how to make the most of him. It doesn't matter if it's Wink or Shane Bowen. And we know that Shane Bowen barely used Isaiah Simmons this year after this whole bullshit that he talked on Hard Knocks about how he was going to use him and, different positions and whatever. And then, they used him on special teams and he had one great play, and then they barely used him on defense. And it just seems like they don't know what to do with him. So he's not coming back, I would bet money on. Next up, Azeez. Here's how I feel about Azeez. He is an impact player, and I would love to have him back on this football team. But in my opinion, there's only one way you bring back Azeez. And you bring back Azeez, 2 ways. If you bring back Azeez, you keep Kayvon Thibodeau and you do not draft Abdul Carter. That's one option. The second option is you keep Azeez, trade Kayvon, and draft Abdul Carter, which is what I would like to do. I think Kayvon's a good football player. I'm over him, honestly. And I think Abdul Carter is a bigger impact player. He will be from day one. And I would love to have Azeez there too, because we need depth on this team. It doesn't matter the position. We need depth. And having Abdul Carter, Azeez Ojulari, and Brian Burns would make me feel a hell of a lot better than having Azeez, Kayvon, and Burns, which is what we had this year. And, we know that Azeez is good for an injury at some point in the season, but the thing that I like about Azeez is when he's on the field, he's on the field. He is an immediate impact player, has had a ton of sacks over the last few years, and he almost always gets sacks when he's healthy. So I would like to see it's either him or I really want him and Abdul Carter, and we can get rid of Kayvon. I'm sorry about that. I know everyone has mixed opinions on Kayvon, but I just think we'd be better off, with some new blood in here. Next up, Drew Lock, sayonara, honey, best of luck elsewhere, no hard feelings. Greg Van Roten, same thing. Toodaloo, need a better talent at guard. Goodbye. Jamie Gillen, I would bring back. I think he had a nice year this year. It was actually one of his best years for the Giants. He was a lot more consistent than he has been over the years. And I think that he probably had more punts inside the 20 that he has had prior to this year. So I think he did a nice job this year. I would definitely bring him back. Next up, Casey Kreider, the long snapper, 100% bring him back. Knock on wood, we didn't have any issues with the snaps. And I think he's probably pretty cheap. And to have consistency everywhere would be nice, but to also have consistency when it comes to the long snapper and just one less thing to have to worry about, I'm on board with. Next up, Chris Manhertz. Again, same thing, no hard feelings. I would like an upgrade at tight end, and it is not Chris Manhertz. Next up, Gunnar Olszewski. I was wildly disappointed when Gunnar got injured. He was one of the few, speaking of reliable players on this team, who you knew that if he was going to be back there to either catch the kickoff or the punt, that he was going to catch the ball. And I really liked that about him, but he missed the entire season with a groin injury, which is kind of crazy. He ended up having to have surgery, so he missed the whole season. So I would say I'm good not bringing back Gunnar, because what I would do is bring back Amir Smith-Marset, and he gives me a little more confidence, again, at the punt and kickoff return than Eric Gray does, which I know if they don't bring back Smith, it's going to be Eric Gray, and I am so not on board with that. It is enough. The Eric Gray experiment is like the same thing, the Joshua Zudu experiment at tackle. It is over. Toast. Capiche? We are done with those two things. Next up, Aaron Stinney and Chris Hubbard. Again, toodaloo, sayonara. Elijah Riley, again, goodbye. Ty Summers, I would like an upgrade at linebacker, but if they can't get one in the draft, I would bring him back probably as a practice squad guy and just see if he can develop a little bit more with the linebackers coach and with this scheme. He was forced to play this year, and he was not bad, but also not great. Again, would like an upgrade there. Next up, we have Armon Watts, who sadly, I think he tore his ACL in week 16 or 17. So I don't even think that he's going to be back and ready to play. So I would say that he's not coming back. Next up is Jason Pinnock. And I think Jason Pinnock is a decent football player. But again, I really want an upgrade at the cornerback position and the safety position. And we're going to get Tyler Nubin back next year, which is great. But with Isaiah Simmons gone and Jason Pinnock gone, we need another safety. And I would like someone who is a veteran, who has more experience, who can lead the safeties room and can really help out a young guy like Tyler Nubin. So again, see you later, Jason Pinnock, no hard feelings. Greg Stroman, same thing, need an upgrade at corner. He can be a practice squad guy if necessary, but I want him nowhere near the starting lineup. And lastly, we have Patrick Johnson. Again, goodbye. Nothing to write home about there. Lastly, let's talk about the restricted free agents. There are 4 of them. And the first one is probably going to be an unpopular opinion for some of you, but it is Tommy DeVito. And I am saying, listen, if you want to keep him as the practice squad guy, that's fine. But that is the beginning and end of his roster spot with the Giants. I don't want him anywhere close to competing with the first or the second string role at quarterback. He's a backup, and that's it. And the story is great, and I love it, but he needs to stay a backup. Next up is Deontay Johnson, who had a really great training camp and then dealt with injuries, didn't come back till the end of the year. And when he played, he was okay. Again, not great, not bad. I think I would take him back because what I saw in training camp, I just felt like he was going to be a good option there. So I hope to see more of him. And again, like Ty Summers, if you can have him as a practice squad guy, someone that can learn and develop over time. And if he has to play, you feel like, he's going to make some plays and instead not make mistakes, then I'd be on board with that. Tomon Fox. No, thank you. I think Tomon Fox has been a decent player. Again, not great, not bad. And I really want depth on this team, and I want impact players in the depth. So again, I don't want to see Tomon Fox starting at the edge. I want to see Abdul Carter, Azeez Ojulari, and Brian Burns, and we are in business. And then last up, Devon Wilson, who played, a little bit towards the end and didn't do much. So that's where I'm at with those guys. You let me know how you guys feel about them in the comments. I think that, again, it says a lot about this team that those players are basically all easily replaceable. So sad, but the truth. This is where we're at with this Giants team. So that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back next week. So this is what we're going to do. Next week, one podcast Giants, next week, Yankees Mets. And in the Yankees Mets podcast, we're going to go through all of the offseason moves that have been made so far. There have been quite a bit between the Yankees and the Mets. So we'll have a lot to discuss, obviously including Juan Soto and more where that came from. So we'll be back with that. Please subscribe, share with your friends, and enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.